So it's finally time to start building the floor for the teardrop. And this is pretty much the last thing that I will need to do. There may be a couple little things, but the last thing that I'll need to do before we actually go three-dimensional with the teardrop, which will be very exciting. So the process for building the floor is pretty much the same as for building the bulkheads. So I have an inner panel and an outer panel, and then this poplar in between with insulation, just pretty much like I built the bulkheads. I'll use Kreg screws, the pocket hole screws on the corners in order to put everything together, build basically a grid out of this poplar and glue it to these panels. The bottom panel, or the road side, is 1/4-inch marine fir plywood, and then the cabin side, the part that we'll actually lay on, is 1/2-inch marine fir. Now I was able to buy 4x10 sheets and split them in half. So what this gives me is a 5x8 panel, which is the size of my teardrop trailer. Now, there are a couple things that I will have to do differently, the way that I coat them and whatnot. I'm not planning on doing much finishing on the internal floor. I've got another idea for what I'm going to do with the inside floor. But I will be coating the bottom of the floor with like a roofing cement or rubberized coating, and so I think that's about it. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on how I'm building all the joints and how I'm building the grid and everything like that, because it's pretty much the same as what you saw when I built the bulkheads. But I will film things that are different, and things that are unique to the floor. And so let's go ahead and get started. I've got the grid all made here, the supporting frame, and I've also got the foam all cut out and in place. So now I'm going to glue the panels on, and remember these panels are 1/4-inch marine plywood. Now for this one, I'm not going to worry a whole lot about getting complete coverage with the glue. I'm going to use the PL Premium again, and based on my experience doing the sides, it's it's a real job to get complete coverage and get that all troweled out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to focus on getting these frameworks done, and then make sure that I've got some on these insulation panels to get them good and stuck. But just want to make sure I definitely get all the edges and all of the frames, and that I have some on here, but I'm not going to worry about getting really good coverage. But I'm going to go ahead and do that. Probably not going to take any pictures of it, because you've seen me do that before, but then I will put the panels on. We'll flip it. Well, there's some other things I got to do first. We'll fit this thing to the trailer before I put the top panel on, because when I put the top panel on, it gets pretty heavy, and I don't think I'm going to be able to move it without help. So I'll go ahead and get to it, and I'll show you when I'm done. All right, I've got my panel all glued up and unclamped. This is the inside cabin side. The part that I just glued up is underneath. I've turned the panel over. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it onto my trailer frame, and I'm going to mark where the bolts come through, and I'm going to drill some little recesses with a Forstner bit in order to let it sit flat on the trailer. So what I thought I would do is I thought I would show you the trailer and show you some of the modifications I've done to the trailer, and then we'll go ahead and move this thing to the trailer, and I will make the marks and then make the drill holes. So this is the trailer that I'm working with, and this is a Northern Tool heavy-duty 5x8 just a utility trailer, but it doesn't have a floor on it. So it's a bolt-together trailer, and you can see that there are these bolts here for the cross pieces, and this is the part that I'm going to have to recess up into the floor so the thing will sit flat. A couple things that I've added to the trailer is I've added these jacks on the front and the back, so I can level the trailer up when I get to the campsites. These lights are going to come off. These are just temporary, so I could use it for a little while before I put the floor on. The other thing that I have done is I took a piece of 2-inch pipe and I had it welded the length of the trailer, put a receiver on the back. This is so I can put a bike rack or something like that on the back of the teardrop. And I also put a extension on the tongue. This is because the front of the teardrop will come out like this, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't having a problem with clearance on the car when I back it in. So these are the changes that I've made. Also put the tongue jack up there. So we'll go ahead and we'll put the the floor on there, and we'll get this thing marked. Okay, so basically what I did is I put the floor here on the trailer, lined it up good, and kind of clamped it down so it wouldn't move, and then took my mallet and just where every single one of these bolt heads is, gave it a good whack to mark it, and then I'll pull it off and I'll go ahead and use a Forstner bit to drill out a little recess for that. Okay, I got that done, got the floor off of the trailer. You can see the little dents. That's from the bolt heads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 3/4 inch Forstner bit. The reason I'm using a Forstner bit is because it'll give me it's on kind of a flat hole and it'll be nice and clean. And I'll just drill out each one of these and just make some room for that bolt head. Should be about 1/4 of an inch deep, so I'll drill all the way through the plywood down to the poplar. So here's the floor that I've put back onto the trailer, and I've marked where the holes are that the bolts to hold the floor down will be, and I just went up underneath with a little stubby pencil and just made little circles where all of the holes are. Then I'll take this off and I'll go ahead and drill for those holes. So here is the underside of the floor, and you can see I've got it all drilled, so I've got all my holes for the bolts that are in the trailer. And then these holes right here go through the cross members of the trailer to hold the floor down. And so I've got all that stuff pre-drilled. Now what I'll do is I'll flip this over and put the inside part, and this is the part that I'll actually be sleeping on the other side. The reason I pre-drilled these is I just thought it would be easier to do it now than to do it later. So I wanted to get this through here. I'll put the top on and finish the drilling. Okay, so I've got the bottom unclamped here. So this is the surface that we'll be laying on. Now I am going to seal this. I'm going to use something that I picked up on the Teardrops and Tiny Travel Trailers site, tnttt.com. Very useful. I recommend it if you're trying to build one of these. But anyway, so I picked it up. It's called the Mix, and the Mix is basically a polyurethane or some other kind of varnish, or oil-based varnish, mixed in a ratio with mineral spirits or some other kind of thinner. So what I used is Minwax polyurethane and just some mineral spirits, and I mixed it 2 to 1, so basically 2 parts of polyurethane to 1 part of mineral spirits. I'm going to put it on there, and we'll hopefully it'll work okay. The other thing that I did is I did mask these edges in 1 inch. The reason is I'm going to seal the edges with epoxy, and I don't want to put epoxy on top of the varnish, and because I was afraid it wouldn't stick. So I went ahead and masked those out. But I'm just going to put the mix on the rest of this, and maybe we'll see how 1 coat does, maybe 2 coats. I'm not really trying to get a really pretty finish on this. I just want to seal it up good. Alright, I've got the floor coated with 2 coats of the Mix, and I think it's pretty well sealed. This isn't going to be in the weather at all, so I'm not real worried about it. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to seal the edges. I'm going to use epoxy, and I'm just going to seal the edges here, this part and that part. And we'll mix up the epoxy and brush it on with just a foam brush. Okay, I have a good coat of epoxy along the sides here and along these edges right here where I'm going to be gluing. So now the next thing is to flip it over, and we'll start working on the bottom side.